I often wonder what it'll take for humans to live to 150 or 200 years of age. And not just live longer years, but make those years really count, make them about profound health, meaning, and significance. Today, our guest is a well recognized biohacker and longevity maestro. He's listed among the top 30 most disruptive entrepreneurs globally in 2023 and is also a scientist, author, speaker, philanthropist, and athlete. He's here to share insights on embracing a long life filled with energy, purpose, and joyous celebration. This is the story of lifespanning with Gene Fallacara. Gene, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be with you, Caspar, today. It's fantastic. Thank you for having me. Thanks for this extensive introduction. Those are just words.
They are just words.
Real person.
Let's try and put some meaning behind those words. And let me start there. Of what I mentioned in those words was this idea of living to like 150, 200. Do you think that's even possible?
Of course. Well, you're a doctor, you're a scientist, I'm a scientist, and biology and genetics doesn't lie much. We are designed as human naturally to live up to 150, I would say up to 135 for sure, 50 for certain categories of people. But we have a problem today is the average health span in the US is 80. So we have that gap. And what do we do with that gap? How do we manage our biology and our gene expression to get to the point that we are supposed to be? And I'm not talking about changing your liver and heart and building a new one. Of course, those one will end up by themselves, but still, they are designed to go to that point, 230. It's just because we're not doing the right thing. We're not doing the appropriate, we're not taking the appropriate measure, and we are probably not in the best environment to get there. So we need to address that. But I think that we need to address that for everyone, not just for the elite thinker or maker or doer or biohackers. I'm part of this biohacking community for over 10 years, but I still have a problem with that is we made it too cultish. We're not supposed to be a cult. We're supposed to be helping others. And that's the point. So my dream is, getting everybody up to 130, 150, naturally, as much as possible. This is lifespanning completely, and without spending $2 million a year to get there.
I was going to ask you about Brian Johnson, and since we're there, I mean, what do you think about that? Because yes, listen, you could throw money at anything. Do you think he's actually doing a good job with his money?
Well, he did a good job with his money in his businesses for sure, because he did very, very well. I have a lot of respect for Brian. Actually, Brian is going to be on the cover of Biohackers magazine.
Your magazine? Nice.
And he's going to be on my podcast as well in, I think, 28th of February, some things like that.
Awesome.
So, I like the guy. And with all transparency and honesty, when I got informed about what Brian was doing, was not even, I didn't discover it by myself on social media, is the boyfriend of my daughter that goes like, "Hey, Jean, have you seen this Brian Johnson? What he's doing? You're doing the same stuff, but it seems to be extreme." And I go like, "I know Brian Johnson, but what he's doing in biohacking." So I started to look at what he was doing. And my first impression, to be honest, was, what the you're doing? You're spending that much money. And you are claiming that you are 42, I think, or 47, and your biological age is 36. But I'm sorry, I'm not spending $2 million a year. And my biological age is 28, and I do better than you because I'm older than you. And I was just like, this is not what we want for our society. This is not what we want for our people. This is insane. It shouldn't be that way. That was my first reaction.
Yeah.
Now, I looked at what is done, testing, validating, optimizing the dosage, the supplement, the procedures and everything, and making that blueprint some sort of, okay, this is the perfect protocol to get to live longer. I spent $2 million a year to write it, but it is accurate. So big honor on that job. When you get to understand what was the purpose behind it, I think it makes sense. I would never go that way. You would, there is something that is unique in our life and that is non-negotiable at all. Freedom. And he has no freedom. He doesn't choose his meal, doesn't choose the time. He doesn't choose the time he goes to bed. He doesn't choose the time that he spent with his family. So it's a sacrifice that he's doing there. It's honorable because he's bringing some knowledge to the community. But, and one, now it's a back draw on, again, coming back to the first point. But that is, unfortunately, not adaptable or transposable to the entire community in the world. You have to have certain genes. You have to have certain environment. You have to be white, not Spanish or Asian or Black, to go to that protocol, because the expression of your epigenetic will be completely different. So once again, you're spending $2 million for an elite.
Yes. And the thing is, he has the money to spend it. He wants to spend it. It's his choice how he wants to. I think it is a bit much. You're not going to get the same ROI, and you get so much more out of less. But if he's willing to use himself as the experiment to try and prove some things, I'm okay with that, because everyone should. I actually applaud that level of prioritization in his life for health, whereas most people, would look at that and say, that's crazy. I kind of look at it and say, listen, if I had as much money, maybe I'd go about differently, because we are different people and different thoughts, but maybe I'd spend as much. I don't know. I've always talked about building a healing sanctuary that has everything in it, non-toxic. That's expensive. That's several million probably to do and all that.
Of course. Look at people that does like Botox and stuff like that. Mainly it's people with money. So they pay attention to your health because they have the money to spend into it. Is the extreme, you can spend way more. So now you get into the step of, into the bracket of these people that have hyperbaric chamber at home, or in their boat or jet, infrared therapy all over the place, and all the gadgets and everything. So it's the highest level of biohacking that is implementing there. Big honor on that. You have the money to do it, but ask yourself a question. What do you do with $2 million a year in educating other people to take simple step in their life, like the simple one of going outside in the morning before 11 a.m.?
Yes.
What's your impact in the world? How will people remember you in 2, 3, 4 generations from now?
And that's where I think biohacking does become a little cultish and a little bit elitist, at least to the outsider. Because you see someone like Brian Johnson, you say, Jesus, these people have too much money. 2 million, my goodness, no wonder. Of course I'd be healthy then with $2 million. But let's backtrack then, because you are an elite biohacker and you know so much about it. What are the fundamentals you would say in biohacking that maybe Brian Johnson got right, and that you are implementing that aren't that expensive at all?
Oh, one single simple olive oil.
Oh yeah.
You know what? Yeah. That thing.
Nice. I like it. I like that answer. I was not expecting that. I was expecting some like profound, like, but I mean, it's just, all right, go into that. Olive oil. Let's go there.
Olive oil. Like nobody thinks about that, taking olive oil every day, like a spoon 3 times a day. And that's one of the best biohack out there. It's not expensive. It's accessible. It's even almost not at cost, because you can get it like good quality, of course, cost a bit, but a spoon doesn't cost much. he has that in his protocol, and he has super expensive spermidine and stuff like that that are
Right.
like way on the other extreme. Um, but this is like a simple one. I still recommend that. And olive oil. We've been talking about MCT with
Hmm.
my great friend Dave Asprey, that he puts MCT oil
Yep.
everywhere.
And
That's
everything.
another
Yeah.
one.
He's
Another
another one that
extreme.
spends a lot. I don't think he's at 2 million a year, although all those stem cells and hundreds of pills, maybe. Who knows?
Well, don't ask him, otherwise he's gonna block you on Instagram.
Oh no. I enjoy Dave. I know him a little bit here and there. We've talked, and he's tried some of our stuff. But I listen again. Something more power to him, because they are both serving as sort of guinea pigs to the world in
Yeah,
some ways and showing
yeah,
things off. So that's education, good for them. But let's get back to olive oil. So tell me,
yeah.
when are you taking that, or when should people
Every
take that?
day, actually, in the morning, and if you take breakfast, if you don't do intermittent fasting, because you don't do intermittent fasting every day, if you do it well. So you take olive oil, and then at lunchtime or with your shake, and before going to bed, it's a great thing for your brain. That added with magnesium threonate,
Hmm.
perfect sleep, recovery, BDNF at the highest level, and cleaning up your brain. So it it's something that is not expensive. He brought that up in the protocol he was trying to set up. And I'm glad that he's pushing on it on a daily basis, because this is something that I would love to see people like Dave Asprey or Ben Greenfield
Hmm.
preaching more about those simple, free or close to free tip and biohack that you can use. Like,
Yeah.
waking up in the morning and taking a glass of water with salt and lemon, that doesn't cost much, is
Right.
accessible to everyone, but no one is promoting that.
Yeah.
Why?
It's very true that nowadays you want to be marketable, and that's not very marketable. It's also very true that if you don't attach yourself to something, and you kind of give this, hey, everything may have some benefit, let's look at it holistically, that's not very sexy. That's not celery juice to the medical medium. I like the guy,
Correct.
but I know his marketing team was like, hey, you got to just get one thing that's going to impact a bunch, and let's put it out there, and then get everyone sharing that they're like, of
Yeah.
course, if you go from your frappuccino with so much
Yeah.
sugar and crap in it to celery, it's going to be an improvement. I could
Of
say the same if
course.
you went to any natural juice, or just
Yeah.
water with lemon with a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
salt in it too. So
Yeah.
I kind of I get the marketing hype, and I get where people want to be led by a singular piece that seems like almost a silver bullet to them.
Mhm. Well, NAD then is
Yeah.
the only one that is there. I know that you have a product that
Yeah.
is there. I was looking at the composition of your product. Actually, very interesting mix.
Yeah. That was not me per
You're gonna
se.
have to explain me, because you choose those ingredients for a
Yeah.
reason.
Oh, very, very long, trial and error, but also even looking at it, bioenergetic, all sorts of ways we were looking at these synergies. And it was my father. My father is a doctor, has been doing this a very long time, and using NAD and IVs for people with,
Hmm.
Parkinson's and Lyme
Yeah,
disease and brain fog, and seeing great results. And we always had talked about what's low hanging fruit in our medical center that we can offer. And of course, NAD is one of those that's incredibly hard to do in a bioavailable form and orally. We had
yeah,
nasal and
yeah,
everything, but we tried a long time, and we saw synergies between the CoQ10, the glycine, the bioavailability even with magnesium, bacopa, and kept going and the ratios are very important. People don't
yeah.
get that, and people don't understand that creating a supplement is not just taking ingredients and throwing it in a pill. That is not, that's like saying to a cook, like, take this piece of chicken, this salt, throw it together and just serve it. And it's gonna taste like crap, all right? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
gotta do sprinkles sometimes of this to get
yeah.
certain flavors out, and this, and maybe the meat, the fat composition goes along well with something else. So it's an art form, and I'm glad I was a part of it in some way, but I really let my father kind of lead that one and
Because
do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Chinese medicine understood that principle a long time ago.
Yes.
With those recipes and mixing the right amount of ingredients to do something.
Yeah, no, but it's very important that also I feel like people understand that there's also this maxim of sometimes less is more, whereas
Yeah,
there is this, of course, people like we're talking about Brian Johnson, others, apply a lot of things at once, and it may work for them, and sometimes it's a lot better than
it's
doing
fine.
nothing.
Yeah.
But there is this also kind of approach that maybe do one thing at a time and see if it's for you. And that's really difficult because I've even gotten this, and I'll ask you about this because I saw a post recently. Carnivore Aurelius, you know him, that
Oh, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
cryotherapy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he kind of, said it's sort of bullshit in his words and everything. And it really got me thinking because I know certain patients that may have a lot of stressors already, may have weakened immune systems. And if they do cryo, they usually get worse, too much stress or just not right for them at the time. But I know people such as yourself, I believe, that absolutely use it, are huge advocates for it.
Yeah.
So do you feel that people need to not just take in evidence, because there is tons of evidence it's very good for you, but actually experience and use some intuition and ability to react to see when they're
Mhm.
including kind of biohacking things in their life?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, the first step of everything, and first step, actually, allow me to correct that. The first steps to getting a better life is try to learn how your body works. Look, I have
Mm,
no wearable. I don't wear any
good for
because
you.
I've been into biohacking for years
Yeah.
and I know my body so perfectly that I know what works and what doesn't work. In our society, in our world, thanks God, we are all unique snowflakes. So what works for me may not work for other. When people ask me advices, I can give general advices. Yeah, take a cold plunge 4 hours after workout, before having your dinner, and not after. If you have lunch, wait 3 hours. Those are general principles that works for pretty much everybody because it's the system that works that way. Now, how long do you stay? That depends of your body fat, your
Hmm.
mitochondria, the glycogen you have in reserve, and everything. I can stay 45 minutes, but it's because I do it on purpose for some reason linked to flow state.
Mm.
Um, like everything that we do, and this is actually that's the speech I'm going to have at Biohacker Expo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, extreme biohacking. There is a dark side of biohacking, and
Absolutely.
I want to explain people that it is great to try to improve your life, but everything you do in the extreme become oxidative stress.
Yes.
Oxidative stress is a counterproductive factor of longevity. So if you tell me, I wake up in the morning, I drink water and salt and lemon, I run outside to get my feet on the ground and to look at the sun rising. Then I come back and I take infrared therapy for my butt because I want that to be shiny. And then I go in my hyperbaric chamber and then I do blah, 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 blah. When you live, when do you live? When do
Yeah.
you take care of the others? When do you speak to your family? This is as much as important as all the supplements you can take and all the implementation and biohack you can take. If you don't socialize, if you don't exchange, if you don't nourish your brain, biohacking is shitty.
Yeah.
So you never have to go into the extreme. And there's studies that I'm using in my speech telling people that in the long run, a biohacker will live up to 90 or 95. Someone that takes things a bit less seriously without less struggle and pressure will live 210
Mm.
just by having the same lifestyle. And this is a case study on two identical twins living in the same city.
Mm.
So this is where we stand. This is the problem of a society. Everything we do, we always push too far. And we fall into the extreme. And when we fall into the extreme, we have cases that come back. And slam back in your face saying, it doesn't work. It's dangerous. It's risky. Here we are.
Yeah. And then there's the whole, it didn't work for me sort of thing. Like, of course, you are you. I get it.
That's fine.
I'm in medicine and I see people all the time. Well, that approach didn't, like, okay, that's not an insult. Nothing's supposed to work for everyone.
Yeah.
I know we can help people out there, of course, just like biohacking help, but it's not for everyone. I think the underlying principles behind all of this are the endless pursuit of trying to be healthier and happier. That's all it is. And that's where I want to ask you about, where do you see the difference in medicine and biohacking, or I should say not conventional medicine, but where medicine should be, meaning more about healing and getting person to a healthy state, not managing a disease. Do you see the kind of barriers between the two? Because you're right, one's over here and seems like a cult of people that want to be superhumans and live forever. And one is this sort of like, well, I'm sick and I need drugs, or surgery.
That's the problem.
Right. Yeah. And then it's these two groups that are just looking at each other with disdain, being like, well, you're wrong. You're crazy, right? For doing all this. And I often sit in the middle where I think people should be, in the gray, not the black and white, and say, well, can't we all just come like together? Can't we all just get along?
I understand. Yeah.
And just meet in the middle and handshake and be like, you can chill out a little bit and you could maybe take your health a little bit more seriously. Yeah. And then we'd all be better off. But where do you see that? Like, do you see biohacking moving further away from the mainstream, kind of where everyone is? Or do you see it kind of coming into the everyday lives of people and even medicine?
So here's the thing. I think that biohacking, because of the wording, biohacking is a dangerous concept in general. I love it. I'm a biohacker. But biohacking, as a doctor, as a scientist, I can tell you there is no way you hack anything in your biology. You can improve, but you cannot hack anything. It's biological. So
it's
the
true.
word as it's a nonsense. So when you start from there, and I got the principle of where he came from. Dave is from the tech industry, and he said, like, hacking systems, let's hack the biology, biohacking, blah, blah. I think that the next biohacking 2.0 or 3.0, because of Web 3.0, it's going to be life-spanning. It's a word I created because it reflects way more what I live for. There is a big chunk of longevity that is handled by natural behaviors and improving your biology by natural behaviors. That's the biggest chunk you can use. Then comes and fall into places, supplement, and a couple of other things that you can do to get to the next level. But if you don't implement those standard natural behavior, you're not going to get there. It's impossible that you get there. You're going to improve a certain part of your life, but everything you improve on one side is going to reflect negatively on the other side. So take it on the holistic way and put everything in perspective, but then make it understandable and chunkable, I would say, that people can implement that in their life naturally, step by step, whether they are 12, 15, 20, 30, 40, or 70 or 80 years old. It doesn't matter. Most people today are going to get to you and you tell them, oh, would you like to improve your life? When they're in the 20, they don't care.
Yeah.
When they're in the 30, they start thinking about. Then in the 50, start counting. And in the 60, I'm too old for that. And 70, I'm too old. I'm just going to wait to die and blah. But if you were to tell them that you can do natural stuff that will extend your, like just stretching a bit in the morning, moving, sunlight exposure is a big factor.
Yeah.
You're going to get there. And I wanted to jump back on your initial question is, with all these things, the health system as it is today, the medical system and doctors in general, you're not going to need them the way that they have been educated, because they have been educated to treat people with a pill that big pharma are giving them. Here's the thing: you have cholesterol, here's the pill. You have cardiac issue, here's another one. Oh, you're stressed, here's a pill. None of these guys have the tools yet to be able to have someone coming to them and go like, I'm in a super top shape, but I may have a factor, genetic or not, that leads me to heart disease or cholesterol or diabetes. Can you help me in doing that? And not by a pill, by helping them to take the right supplements, natural medicine, I would say, getting into improving and not treating. Then, of course, we're going to talk about AI and all these things that is coming right after that. That's going to help us. Yeah. It's a good, we live in a world today that is super interesting, because everything goes fast, is changing super fast. And I see that, my whole family are doctors, and I hear them, I see them, but I see that everything need to change from before they became doctors, when they were at school. And hopefully, because of AI, we're going to be able to do that, to change fast and adapt people learning education again, to make this doctor the best biohacker in the world, capable of supporting the population of the world to be lifespanners.
Yes. And I do feel there is already this upswell of the medical community that is embracing it. That is, you go to these biohacking events, you see more doctors at these things.
Oh, yes.
And you see people that are understanding we have to. It's not like a question of if we should. We have to move from disease management and sick care to prevention and optimization of health.
Right.
Because the current path, we will be at 90% chronically ill. Kids will be just by the age of 5, just on massive amounts of and just suffering for the rest of their life, not productive, no purpose, depressed, all these mental health issues as well. It'll be just a society that cannot continue. So it's already at the tipping point where we're going to have to do something different. And I'm sure you've seen it a lot too, where probably people that would have been skeptics or maybe still are, and kind of, looked away from things like biohacking, are now opening up and probably saying like, Jean, what can I do? Yeah. Right. And for those that maybe, for those that, because you mentioned something that's very true. Most people, when you tell them all about these options and all the different things they can learn in the books, overwhelmed. They go, too much, where I don't even know where to start. And I get it. I've been trying to tune my morning ritual for like 20 years now. And it's gone from like 35 steps in like 4 hours of everything, to like now like 3 steps in 20 minutes, which maybe is too short. You go back and forth. It's like breathing.
That's okay.
And it evolves.
That's okay.
It evolves.
At least you do it. Yeah.
But when it was 30 something, I was like, dude, this is too overwhelming. Like, this is too much for me. I got to be up at 5 and not even start looking at work till 9. And then I'm exhausted for the day, right? So for those who are saying, well, I'd love to start in biohacking, like, where can I start where you don't throw 100 things at me and I say, I'm out?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to create with Life Spanning, is really this access to basic information, not overwhelming. Because first, tell someone that is over 55, 60 or 65, okay, let's start biohacking. First thing he's going to do, like, no way. First, right? I don't want to be a biohacker. And I was in a conference, interestingly, actually, to make a jump in my mind, but I was speaking at an event that was mainly wellness oriented, yoga and meditation, 100% woman. And I was talking to them and I go like, okay, if you have to choose, would you like to be a biohacker? They were just like, Never. We will never be biohackers. Don't even dream about it. On purpose, I'm going to talk about life spanning. And that's it. So that's the thing, it's overwhelming to know that there is so many things you can do to improve your life. And the biohackers actually want to do all of them.
Yes.
And they don't want to lose 1 minute of their time, because otherwise they're not going to be able to try that and get those 200 pills of supplement that most of the time they take, and the effect is just like canceling each other.
Yeah.
But I think that if we started to educate our people, our kids, first step, how to breathe, like at school. No one in our generation and generation before has told us there is a way that you can cool down when you're super irritated or anxious or nervous. Breathe.
Yes.
We were taught, we were educated in a way that you should not be acting like that, or you should not do that. But no one ever said, like, you're pissed off. How do you feel now?
Yeah.
Those things are natural. It's one. But if we start doing that in our society, like making sure that people don't work into offices for 9 hour or 8 hour in a row, and we start to understand that the circadian rhythm is one of the most important things for longevity, combined with the ultradian rhythm. So making people productive, happy at work, not forcing them to be in a cubicle behind a computer just before bed, for example, and things like that. Simple education, simple step.
Yeah.
And that don't require much. The second step that is probably even more important, nutrition. We need to educate people on food. Because, well, it's an old cheesy things to say, but food is medicine or poison. Choose your camp. But it is so true. What you eat will make you feel better or worse. And you have to choose the right food for that. And then to get there, you need to educate, once again, people what to eat, how to eat, in what time, and make them understand the composition of the food. The quality of the food is important. Most people, and I've been part of that, because of, as a scientist, I was like convinced calorie in is calorie out. That's the only way you can lose weight. Yeah. But unfortunately, the calorie in based on sugar, for example, is not the same as calorie in based on other components that you're going to use to fuel your body. So the principle of in and out doesn't work all the time. Of course, you need the deficit to lose weight, but you need to understand what you eat is the most important, and the quality of what you eat is where you're going to get, because our body is in constant activity of sequencing proteins and sending signals to every single component of your own body, neurotransmitters, and back and forth, up and down. If you don't fuel your body the proper way, you're not sending the right signal. And those are triggers for cancer and all the degenerative autoimmune disease and everything. We need to make people understand these simple principles. When they understood that principle, they're not going to chase pills to solve their problem, because the pill doesn't solve the problem. It's just like stop it for a moment and postpone the results. So this is, I think it's all education. Like everything in our society is always based on making people aware, informed, and this is our job.
Yeah. And it is true, because I've learned so much of it really lies in awareness. If you've never heard of the solution, then therefore you only have a few solutions. It's what most people think of, you go to the doctor, you get any diagnosis, really. It's, we'll put you on these pills. If these pills don't work, we'll put you on other pills. If they don't work, we'll send you to another specialist and they'll probably cut you open and do surgery. And then you're kind of out of solution, right? And that's it. If that doesn't work, well, I'm sorry, you got to
You're
live
dying.
with this, right? Yeah. When
Or
the
you're gonna die
reality
with
is,
this.
like, the reality of when people tell me that, like, I'm so at wit's end and have no other options. It's like, you have millions of options.
True.
You have, like, shamanism, all
Yeah.
types of integrative therapies, thousands of them, like
Yeah.
lifestyle, nutrition, Gerson therapy, keto, like whatever you want to do. Like, there's millions of options, really.
Yeah.
Endless. If anything, I don't think you'll ever run out of options, truly, in that situation. But if you're told and your awareness field is drugs or surgery or drugs, it's very limited, and your awareness field is only that. So you will only see that, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so a big part of this, you're right, is education and awareness. But don't you also feel that in this space, which is health, which is full of misinformation, disinformation, censoring, I don't know how you fared during the pandemic, but I was definitely told to take down some stuff and had things removed. It's crazy now that you have to kind of look at those things and worry. And what do you think it is? Is it just an old way of going about it and people in charge wanting more money that don't want this type of
Yeah.
empowerment in people?
I think it's probably deeper than that. Don't want to be too philosophical on that, but okay, if you work in a lab and that's your job, you analyze samples and you run diagnostic based on your petri dishes or whatever you do there. Then you report to the lab manager. The lab manager report to the doctor in chief. The doctor in chief report to FDA or CDC. CDC reports to the government. So that chain of command is, if you take all the people I've just named before, and if one of them goes against the flow, if there is some things that goes wrong in our society, you're blamed. People are scared about judgment and blame. So you take the least risk as possible. Like, why do you wear a mask? Because in labs, we're going to wear a mask. If we work with a toxic product and high contaminative components, but does that apply to the society? I don't care. I live in the lab. This is how I do. And I report to my boss. My boss report that. And it goes on a chain of command. We're not going to take. And what if we don't do that? Well, in the lab, if they don't do that, they're going to die. Whoa. Okay. We're going to implement the measure worldwide. This is how it works. I don't think it was a money stuff. Well, of course it was a money stuff, but I don't think that those measures were mainly because people are afraid about taking decision. They're not business entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
They are chain of command. And if you are part of that chain of command, you are like in corporate America. You are a slave. And you do whatever the board is telling you to do. And you do everything you have to do to please those guys at the top of the food chain. And the whole society works that way. And fortunately, there is punk like we are going against the flow and saying highly and vibrantly that no, take judgment, because we have the awareness, because we have the knowledge and we can tell, but we're not, the number of these people are not enough. That's one. Now let's go to the other side. Misinformation because of social media. This is my biggest problem today, is the amount of information that you can find on social media coming from coaches and sport trainers and everything, that suddenly they know so much about the science and give so big advice to everyone. But when you put that just a bit out of the limit of what they just read, and they know, shit, this is dangerous. And when they get questioned, or even they don't understand, if they read the abstract of a publication, that's already too much asking without judging. But you have to understand the whole concept of a publication to be able to talk about it, not just like the resume taking ChatGPT 4 and say, okay, what's this publication is talking about? Oh, I'm going to do a post. I'm going to look super sharp because I'm talking about that. That's the problem. We have so much misinformation in our social media. And I think that hopefully one day this is going to stop, because it creates something's negative, not positive in our society. And it comes back to what you said before. Where do I start? I'm overwhelmed. I want to live longer, but this guy says that, and the other guy says that about cryotherapy, and the other one says, oh no, it's not good, and the other one, oh yes, oh but no, and then I'm not doing it.
Right. This is all confusing. It's like the meme of someone trying to eat healthy and watching like, oh, eggs are bad. They're about to take a bite of eggs. Like, eat this. Oh, oats are bad. It's like, oh God, you know? And it's like, they just end up like, screw it, I'm just going to McDonald's. You know? That's what we feel like. I get it. If I didn't have the upbringing I had and was around medicine and doctors and all this and experts, and even then, a lot of them I felt weren't exactly aligned with what I felt should be held. So you have to figure it out yourself. But if I didn't know, it'd be way too much for me nowadays. If I was just perusing through hashtag health optimization or biohacker on Instagram, I'd be like, every other one is counter like to the one I just watched.
God.
I'd be like, screw this. No one agrees on how we could be healthy out there. Like, then why even bother? You know, I'll just take a pill.
But you know, the saddest part of it is like, even I ranked doctors sometimes are saying contradictory stuff. One that correct is saying, and I appreciate that for the guy. So Andrew Huberman does that. He sometimes correct what he said before. But there's other guy. With all due respect for my friend Gary Brecka, but when he says like, you should never go to the gym with an empty stomach, holy smoke!
Yeah.
What?
It reminds me of like, what is it? Star Wars, like, you know, living in absolutes is like a Sith. To say never to everyone is like, well, what if you're like, you know, the different, you can't say never to everything, you know, to everything.
No.
There are no absolutisms in life. Almost.
Absolutely. So that's the thing, you know, where you start. And I don't think that I know more than others or whatsoever. But like you said at the beginning, is you have to try it and you have to test it. If it works for you, keep going. If it doesn't work, change, adapt. This is the you know, it's an extent of Darwinism, the law of adaptation. You need to be resilient to change, and you need to accept the faults and the results. And sometimes the good thing, you take them. Sometimes it doesn't work. You just keep going. That's it. Yeah.
And I think a big portion of that, we live in a world of influencers and consumers of those influencers, right? So I honestly, the influencers are what they are. They're trying to make a buck, trying to share their expertise. It may be flawed. I feel we've always had people out there saying things that may not be true, but trying to capitalize off that. That's always been, it's just so much more in your face now, and everyone can do it. Yeah, exactly. It's been going around since the dawn of time with politicians and kings and all these things. So now you just have way more access to it. But it reminds me of another video that's being shared a lot, of this teacher that is constructively questioning a student who is asking about J.K. Rowling and whether she was transphobic. And it's just this line of Socratic kind of questioning of like, can you find an instance of this, you know, so-called, is like, all right, minutes go by, you found it. And how does that make you feel? And it was, you know, at the end, this person's like, well, I feel kind of dumb because I was just listening to what people said and I didn't have an actual thought of my own to it. And I didn't actually sit there for a minute or two and ask myself questions of, well, is this really a bad thing that she said, or is it not? Is this really something I may agree with if I were in her shoes or not? And so I feel people in general, when they approach these things, it doesn't need to feel overwhelming, but there has to be a level of intuition and gut instinct as to, hey, I'm kind of resonating with what they say. It
Yeah.
feels right to me. And then an ability to say, but wait a second, like I do other things they're saying to never do, and I feel good. So why would that be? Maybe I don't agree with this. I mean, we got to use something on our own. We all have this instinct.
Yeah.
Have
But you know, in
we
neuroscience,
have we lost our instinct is the point? Because back in the
Of
day,
course.
ancestors would be all about you be in a jungle and get a feeling and you knew you were being tracked. Nowadays, you'll be on your phone and being attacked by an animal and not even recognize it. So is the problem here that we actually lost all those instincts or aren't using them?
Or maybe, no, I think that in neuroscience, there is an explanation on that, like this mass effect of not willing to be against the flow. Like the more people agree on some things, the more you're going to tend to be against that flow.
Yes.
And this is probably, so the less awareness you're going to put into the process of understanding the situation. Is just like, if so many people are saying that, it must be true, and people just follow that trend. And unfortunately, because of the influencers today with thousands and thousands of followers are saying some things, oh, if that guy with 2 million followers say that, it must be true. I cannot go against that. So you have this, we have the tendency of following this simple principle and saying like the mass principle and say, oh, I'm not going to go against the flow. But I do agree with you 100% that the awareness is probably some things that we need to once again educate our people, our kids, to be more and not follow these trends that are in school, because you're going to look cool if you do that. And it's a tough time for teenager, for example, when they go against that, they got rejected. But we need our society to maybe interact differently and have maybe less than 50 people in classes, going back to education on that. To make sure that we pay attention to the psychological development first. At the beginning, I remember you were talking about mental health.
Yes.
This is the biggest issue that's going to pop up very soon.
Yeah.
It's going to explode. Yeah. Because more and more, like, look, honestly, staying on social media, do you realize that the attention span went down to 1.6 seconds?
Insane.
This is insane.
I know.
ADHD is not even that bad.
I don't even know if we could really classify like ADHD anymore, because everyone suffers from it if you're on social media. It's like you can't stay with a video for more than a few seconds without being like, next. It's just, it is crazy. And I find myself, listen, I always say, like, if I comment on things, it's usually in a way I find myself as part of it. I've been in that like just endless scroll thing and be like, what am I doing? You could catch yourself. I'm at an age where I didn't have this for most of my life, or at least half my life.
Yeah, same for me.
But I can imagine if I were a child or a teenager, your whole life you've been in front of this. This is all you know, basically. So I understand it. I understand it messes with my head sometimes when I'm on it too much, and my brain feels fried after doing that. I can't imagine what a child goes through, or an adolescent going through it. So it is something that is a huge issue. But how do we now, when you get a child started and they start at a young age, it's very hard to turn.
And you cannot stop. Look at those kids when you take the phone off their hands or their tablets, they're like freak out completely. And since you're
completely irrational.
Yeah, and parents that are busy all day, they come back home and they go like, oh, okay, I just need to rest a bit. My job was shitty today and I'm tired. I don't want to deal with that. Boom, give back the tablet. They don't make the effort.
Yeah. It's a babysitter of sorts.
Yeah.
A terrible one,
a terrible
one that rots the mind and absolutely does not help. But then, Joe, what do we do? How do we biohack our way out of this? Give us the answer.
First, do what I do. I'm not turning on my phone before 8 a.m. in the morning, and I'm switching off my phone at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
knowing that my dinner is about 6:30. I finish by 7:30, and then I go for a walk. So I don't have the time to go and get addicted to that as I was before, because mea culpa. Okay, I didn't ramp up to 300,000 followers just by miracle. It was a period of time where I was spending between 4 and 6 hours a day on my Instagram.
Yeah.
But today I don't care about the number of followers. I post once a month if I have time. I go on Instagram probably 20 minutes maximum. I would say 40 minutes, to be honest. If I go 2 times 20 minutes or 3 times the day, 15 or 10, and no more than that. But when I go, I choose the people I follow, so my feed is pretty clean and it's only for interesting stuff. And then I put comments to raise the debate of something. Yes. Unfortunately, the most interesting people don't take time to respond to their comments. So you can try to raise comment, and then you have a bunch of punk coming and commenting on yours because they
got trolls only, right? All the smart people are busy. You got trolls that just want to tell you you're wrong and an idiot.
I remember at the beginning when I was on Brian Johnson post and I was commenting, why are you doing this and not that? And then someone, he does that because you don't understand the principle. And I go like, are you working in the team of this guy or what?
Yeah.
No, I live in front of him. I'm the neighbor. Good for you, but you don't have to be a fan because it's your neighbor.
Yeah.
Maybe you're wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny, but I think that, I don't watch TV either, so I don't get my brain fried with all these distractions that are useless. There's so many things that you can do to keep yourself up to date and informed and aware, like you said. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I think this is more like as I said before, biohacking 3.0 is going there in that direction.
Yeah.
Instead of taking nootropics for your brain, implement a bit of reading, a walk of 20 minutes, and you don't need those nootropics.
Yeah. Everyone likes the flashy things, the gadgets, the nootropics, the supplements, but the truth of the matter is it really lies in the fundamentals of just get quality sleep, read, connect with people, right?
Yeah.
Have more of that, and then to have those be in nature more. It's been kind of dark and not as sunny. I haven't been outside that much. I was just aching here in New York. It's just winter. It's gloomy. Yes, finally this weekend it was just, and it just, I got out and it just felt like it really was a breath of fresh air. It was like, wow, I miss this, And you got to get outside no matter what. It shouldn't matter if it's cold or, rainy.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
That. But you realize it when you get away from it and then you go back for a second. Like I was out a week, not really outside that much. And I felt bottled up. I felt different. But this is a lot of people's lives. I mean, you have the least number of people outside as ever, right? It's drive, office, drive, sleep, watch
or
TV.
Subway, office, tower,
right. Barely see the sun. Barely are out in nature.
Yeah.
Is that not part of is that not part of the problem? Like you could try every single advanced biohack there is, but if you don't get those fundamentals down, it does not matter.
No. The sunlight, there is no compromise on that. You cannot get away from it. It's impossible. And this is the thing, if we had to say something, only one thing you should do to improve your life, that's it. Get outside.
Get outside.
Oh, yeah.
It's so simple, yet so difficult for people, That's the funny thing. People are like, I'd rather spend more money on a supplement than what you just said. And it's crazy because it's like, just get outside. That's it. People are going to be like, you couldn't just tell me to buy some kind of gadget.
Yeah, buy that supplement and you're going to be super good. Yeah. You know what? I lived in Canada for a long time. Sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
And, New York is cold, but Montreal was even colder.
Yeah.
And I was there but I was training outside in the snow, barefoot and on chest, even by -20 Fahrenheit. It's because you adapt yourself to what you want. Most of the time, I was talking to people and I go, "Oh, I'm not going outside. No. I'm going to the gym, taking the subway or something." But and you condition yourself to building resilience in your body, and then you can do other things that are more complex. But at the beginning, you start by you wake up and you go outside, and you realize that if you do that every morning, just the first thing, step out the bed, drink your water, and go outside for just a bit of stretching, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Your life in less than a week, completely different.
Yeah. And that's where the beauty is, because that is a simple one. Do this one thing every morning, right? And you will start to change, totally free.
Yeah.
You just got to do it. And this is the thing also I realized, listen, consistency is huge. You have to continue. If you miss a day, that's okay. Don't feel bad. Just do it the next day. But keep it up and you will see such a difference. And that's all
drastic.
You need to do. And then once you get that down, you can go into more advanced things.
Yeah.
And you could start the different, you could try biohacking, extreme things even if you wanted to, but remember that you need to experience it, right? And kind of decide for yourself. And don't let the influencers tell you to keep doing something if you yourself don't enjoy it and don't feel good after it.
Otherwise, you're going to have oxidative stress.
Otherwise, you're just going to be stressed. You're going to be a stressed out biohacker, which is not a good biohack.
Look at those biohackers. Like, I have a couple of friends, mainly from Europe, but some extreme biohackers are falling into depression. That is a dangerous part of it. Stay away from that extreme routine implementation that it's going to stress you out. And that's sad. You're trying to improve your life, and on the other side, you're completely unbalance your mental health.
Yeah.
And that is way more difficult to recover than just like being tired or not sleeping for 2 days.
Yes. And I found this also. It's like, find what brings you joy. Do more of that.
100%.
And it doesn't have to be a biohack, quote unquote, of sorts. For me, I've always said it's tennis. I love playing tennis, play twice a week at least, get out after a long day. I'm stressed out. I just hit the court up an hour. My mind is only in there. I'm sweating. I'm moving. I forget everything, feel happy. Right. So I learned, but for a while there, I was like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I have to work harder. I need to do more of this, skip meals, work late. And I found myself burning out, losing passion, not happy. I was implementing little biohacks, intermittent fasting, doing these, electrolytes during the day to keep me going, nootropic, photobiomodulation. It's but I'm not happy, all these gadgets on me and I'm not happy. And that's the problem, because if I kept it up, I would be depressed. I would be in a state that is just...
I can bet. Yeah.
And so I feel like a big portion of that is finding your joy. And I know that's something you're a fan of. And I know you're bringing up this awareness in so many different ways beyond the speaking engagement you have coming up. Why don't you share, you have the magazine, a book. Where can people learn more and read more about these steps to becoming the best biohacker?
Biohackers Magazine is definitely the source for those inspiration and article and scientific background and everything that we have there. The magazine is the only one in the world, and it was the first and the only one. I took over this magazine in 2020. He actually interviewed me, and they were like at early stage of their magazine. And after the interview, they called me back and they go like, hey, you know what? You're an entrepreneur. Would you like to work a bit with us? And I was like, no, I'm writing my book now. I'm busy. And then I thought about it, and I go like, damn, this is exactly what I'm doing. And I think that the tool is great. So I took over the magazine, brought it to the level it is now. And I'm proud of that. We're doing very well with the magazine. My next generation of this tool. It's going to be virtual reality immersive magazine. So the first magazine in the world where instead of reading it, you're going to set up the surroundings and then you're going to be immersed into the article itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, very cool stuff.
Yeah.
And we do a lot for the community in general. Like in this biohacking industry, you have so much shit and bullshit that people from the Dave Asprey conference, actually, they came to us and they said, like, we need to do some things about this. People trying to sell product by putting biohacking, #biohack on it.
Yeah.
And so with the legacy of the magazine, and like, because we've always been unbiased and like completely impartial, we said, we're going to set up some things. And we started the Lifespan Certified program. At the beginning, it was called Cyborg Certified. We changed the name to make it more like trendy and for what we were looking for. And so Lifespan Certified is very easy. You submit your product. If you have backup that is science and publication, stuff like that, the committee will probably get you an award and you're going to be certified. If you submit a product that is full of beep, you're not going to pass.
Yeah.
So you make a difference. And when people, this is one of the steps, like when people start, okay, where do I start? Okay, going outside. What kind of product do I buy? Go to the certified program. You're going to have the list of everything that works and stay away from the rest. That's what we do. And we have the Lifespan Academy that is coming up where we're going to teach people a couple of tricks to live longer, better with not big investment and using natural tools. And of course, I have my podcast where you're going to be my guest.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
We need to get the word out there more. We need to have more conversations about how many terrible biohackers there are. And to not listen to influencers, including us.
Yeah.
Always be a skeptic.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing. I would never pretend to have the right science or the accurate information. But I think that the effort I would always do is I'm going to share my knowledge and what worked for me. And based on that, like you said before, it is up to you to try and make your own protocol or routine or adaptation of that routine. But I will never say like, this is what you have to do. Stick to this.
Anyone that says that is not being truthful. That this is what you have to do without ever meeting anybody or not even knowing who you're speaking to, right? And I will say this about just biohacking in general. Every single biohacker I've met that is, an honest biohacker, I would say, not trying to make a buck out there, has that same characteristic of curiosity, knowing a lot, but always wanting to learn more, always being a student, even when they are the expert, always being a student, always saying what else is out there. You share what you have with the world. I think that's a valuable thing, but you're always curious as to what else is out there. What else can I learn? Even if it goes against my general conception and expertise, great. Like maybe that's an exciting thing to learn something new when you think you know most of it. So
it's true. You cannot reject everything. For example, I was against keto diet and stuff like that. But when you learn about the process, the whole process of regenerating your body and your mitochondria and your glycogen level, the ketosis is part of it. So you have to understand that, okay, you can do keto diet. It's not sustainable in the long run, but you can implement it, try it for a certain number of days and see how it goes. It's not going to hurt you. If you do it for a month, 2 months, a year, yes, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
But
and that's the thing. There is no definitive answer, yes or no. If you ask me the same question, I would say, well, it's not a yes or no. Short term for certain people, absolutely it could be beneficial, but yes, long term probably not so much. And so there is the gray in every single answer, whereas people want a definitive yes or no.
And what is true today is probably not true tomorrow. With the evolution of science, all the publications that were made in the 90s have been all contradicted today. And like everything about carbohydrates and stuff like that, where it was published at that time. So that's the problem we have, like not only the influencers, but
Yeah.
also those paid publications that are made out there. I don't remember the number of publications that are made every day, but we're counting millions. So, you always
We learn
find,
something new every
yeah,
single day, and we have to keep that
yeah,
in mind that we will continue. That could be
yeah.
exhausting too, but
Well, ask Elon. We're gonna have a
yeah.
chip that's gonna memorize everything.
What do you think about that? That was
Well, you
actually
know
one of
what?
my talking
Yes.
points.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was like seeing that they just had the first person. I'm sure they've done it
Yeah.
before, maybe, but the first
Yeah.
documented person that underwent the procedure. And you use the word cyborg, and
Yeah.
in your
Huh?
way of doing things. Like, do you think we're getting to that state
Oh,
where
yeah.
we will be cyborgs very soon? And
Yeah.
do you think that is beneficial, or what do you think about that? Because yeah, I agree. There's going to be more cyborg-like people out
Yeah.
there soon. It's already
Yeah.
happening. We're not going to stop that. But is it a good step, and it is a healthy step for society or humans?
Well, uh, first, let's define what cyborg would mean.
Yeah,
If cyborg is having a limb that is because you lost your arm, your leg, or things like that, which is
already
a
happened.
cyborg.
Yeah.
It's human optimization in a way that will happen, and that is beneficial, making
Hmm.
people that were not able to walk back. I love that. People that have no limbs and can then have arms and grab stuff and touch and even have the feelings because they connect it to the central nervous system.
Right.
I love it. I
Mhm.
love that. I love the possibilities that we're offering our world to get an equal um, type of feeling to everyone. Now, to the chip in the brain. If
A
you're
little different.
paralyzed, yeah, you're paralyzed and it gives you mobility again. Yes, 100% yes. If you're using that chip to grab information from the web and make you even dumber that you were before, nah,
Well, that's where people want
because
it,
that's going to
right?
be the case. Like you're going to ask your chip to
Yeah.
use ChatGPT to scroll the web to get you an answer that is based on things that are published that probably are not accurate enough. So
Yes.
instead of making you more intelligent, making you even dumber,
Yeah.
and you're not going to even think about what you answer, but just repeat what you heard. So we're in the pattern of the 1.6 seconds scrolling exactly the same where we do think without thinking because it's like that. That is the negative side of those chips. So, to a certain extent, in less than 10 years, we're going to have organs and limbs made of 3D printer.
Yeah.
Uh, we're going to be extending our lives by changing liver, heart, coronary system, things like that, that would be printed. So we become half and half or partially cyborgs in that way. Now, if you tell me put a magnet on your finger because you want to open your door, this is ridiculous. I had uh, uh, the case of those hyper biohacker calling
Mm.
themselves cyborgs as well. I'm not for that. Like when he falls to ridiculous situation, I'm not
Yeah.
for that. When he
Yeah.
helps humanity, 100%. We cannot escape technology. Technology is part of the future.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, the human as he is now, just simply human, has a limit. And only the technology can take us to the next level. So now we have to be in harmony with the technology and not
Right.
against it, or the technology not against us. As long as you find harmony in using technology and making us improving our life, it's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Agreed. It's a neutral concept in some ways. The technology is how we harness it. And I think if we
Yeah.
could do so with adding value to those that truly need it, paraplegics, people injured in war, these sort of things, injuries, accidents, while not doing it in a way to lose our humanness and divinity as well. Not abusing it to become
Like
some
that.
sort of a machine that mindlessly just speaks out what it's told to speak out, in a sense, which, I mean, maybe
Not
we're
that
already
far.
there without the Duralink, right? I've met quite a few
Well, not
people
that
like
far.
that. Jean, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. You're going to be speaking at the Biohacking Expo in
Yeah.
Miami in a few weeks, right?
Yes.
And you're going to be talking about some of the dangers, right, in
Yeah.
biohacking.
The extreme biohacking and informing people that biohacking could be a great thing as long as it's mastered in the right way and when you do it with purpose.
Yeah.
Conclusion, you were talking about happiness and joy. This is it. Find your purpose, and happiness, joy, and everything that is related to that will come right at the right spot in the place, and you're going to be living longer just naturally, not even by forcing yourself to do anything.
Right. That is the flow. That is alignment.
Yeah.
That is what
Yeah.
everyone looks for. And that's
Yeah.
when you're really,
Yeah.
really pushing forward and feeling your best. And that's the greatest
Yeah.
biohack there is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jean, where can people learn more about you?
On my website, I think is the best way to get information, because it leads you to Biohackers Magazine from there, or LinkedIn if you are in the professional side of it, or lifespanning.com as well. So jeanfallacara.com, simple, JEANFALLACARA.com. And my podcast is linked there as well on YouTube. So you have all the information from there. Of course, if you're a fan of exercise and optimization, Cyborg Gains, see the Cyborg, Cyborg Gains on Instagram. Yeah, that's my account. It's, you know what, Cyborg Gains is what started everything that I do today. It's
that
because
was the initiation point.
Yeah, definitely. I was on Instagram and I saw young kids paying attention to peak performance and life optimization. And I was just like, see, these kids are way more clever than we are. When we were in the 10, 12, 15, 20, we were just not paying attention to anything, like smoking joint and cruising girls.
Sure.
Joy in a way, but not
biohacking back then was a little different.
Yeah.
Brought us joy, but not really helped our bodies.
Yeah. And at that time, these kids, they were paying attention to what I was doing. And I was just like, holy smoke, this society is moving in the right direction because of this next gen. And that's how I did put more energy and emphasis on teaching people, educating people. And from there, everything, like I wrote my book and kept going that direction and did my podcast. I was the first among the 10 first people on Instagram doing a live Instagram. I was part of the beta testing. Yeah.
Damn. You're an OG.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for a while.
Yeah. And because of that, my podcast was born, because people were coming live on my Instagram. And from there, I was just like, this is so cool. I'm going to do a podcast out of that. And this is how we get started.
Amazing. Love it. Well, you got to start somewhere. You've done so much for this industry, and thank you. I hope to meet you in Miami. I'm hoping I can be there and listen to you. So thank you again for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was an honor, and this discussion was epic.
I love it. I do. And be sure to check out jeanfallacara.com for more information about Lifespanning Program, his book, Biohackers Magazine. And until next time, continue writing your own healing story.